Let me tell you about the day my sister died. Not because the grief is the point, but because the grief is where everything started. Dana was 31 years old. A car accident on a Tuesday evening in March, the kind that happens in seconds and cannot be undone by anything that happens after. Not by the hospital, not by the prayers, not by the specific, desperate will of a woman sitting in a waiting room who has been told to prepare herself and who refuses to prepare herself until there is no longer a choice. There was no longer a choice at 11:42 p.m. Dana left behind a daughter. Lily was 19, old enough that no court needed to appoint a guardian, young enough that she needed someone to hold everything together while she figured out how to survive what had just happened. I held everything together. That is what I do. It is what I have always done. My name is Harper Calloway. I am 48 years old. I raised my sister's daughter for 8 years. I gave her the guest room and the family holidays and the specific daily presence of someone who shows up because showing up is what love looks like when it's working correctly. Last spring, Lily came home from graduate school in Boston. Garrett was at the airport to pick her up. He said I didn't need to come. He said he wanted to give me a night to rest. I believed him. I believed him for approximately 4 more months, and then I found the accounts. My name is Harper Calloway. I am 48 years old. I grew up in Brentwood, the affluent suburb south of Nashville that has been wealthy for long enough that the wealth has a specific quality of settled comfort, of houses with good bones and yards with old trees, and the particular confidence of a community that has decided what it is and stayed that way. My father was a surgeon. My mother managed a nonprofit. Dana and I grew up with the specific advantages of a family that had enough and believed in doing something with it. Dana was 4 years younger than me. We were not identical in any way. I was organized, structured, the one who made lists. Dana was creative, impulsive, the one who made everything more interesting. We were, in the specific way of sisters who are genuinely different and genuinely close, each other's most important person for most of our lives. She married badly, not dramatically. Her husband, Marcus, was not violent, not addicted, not any of the specific dramatic categories of bad marriage. He was simply unreliable, and at 26, with a 1-year-old and a lease she could barely afford, Dana's unreliable husband had left for someone who required less of him. She had Lily. She had me. We managed. For 11 years, Dana and I managed together. She raised Lily. I supplemented. We were the specific kind of sister system that works when one person is practical and one person is warm, and they understand that both are necessary. And then a Tuesday in March, and then I had Lily. I need to tell you about Lily. Not the version that emerged over the summer and fall after she came home from Boston, the version I had known for 29 years. Because I was 19 when Lily was born. I was in my second year of college when Dana called me from the delivery room. I drove home that weekend. I held Lily for the first time on a Saturday morning when she was 3 days old. And something happened in that holding, something that I have never been able to fully articulate. The specific emotion of holding your sister's child when you love your sister completely, a kind of doubled love, love for Dana and love for this person who was Dana's love made visible. I had been in Lily's life every week since then, 29 years, her first word, her first day of school, the recital where she forgot the words and cried backstage, and I told her that forgetting the words was the most interesting thing that had happened in that auditorium in 15 years. The night Dana died, Lily at the hospital, 19 years old, the specific, devastated young face of someone whose world has just been fundamentally restructured. You don't have to figure anything out tonight or tomorrow. You're coming home with me. We'll figure the rest out together. She had come home. For 8 years, she had been in the guest room that I had repainted her favorite color, a particular shade of dusty blue that she had mentioned once and that I had filed away for later, the way I file things, precisely for when they matter. She went to Vanderbilt for undergrad. She went to Tufts for graduate school. She studied social work, which I had understood immediately as the most Dana thing possible, the most direct translation of her mother's warmth into a profession. She came home in May. Garrett picked her up.
Garrett Calloway, 52 years old. I met him at 41. A commercial architect, the kind who builds the structures that are visible in a city's skyline, and whose work is, when it is good, genuinely beautiful in the specific way of things that are designed to last. I want to be precise about this because precision matters when you are talking about someone you trusted for 7 years. He was not a bad man at the beginning, or if he was not yet the man he would become. He was attentive. He was thoughtful. He had the specific quality of someone who reads a room and adjusts, who understands what the people around him need and who provides it. Not from genuine understanding exactly, but from the kind of skill that resembles it closely enough that the difference takes years to see. I married him at 43. I will be honest, someone who had spent her 40s being very careful with herself and had decided at 43 that careful had been long enough. Garrett was the decision to stop being careful. For 7 years, that decision had seemed correct. And then, Lily came home, and the decision I had made at 43 began to reveal its actual shape. The changes started in June, not dramatically, the specific gradual quality of something shifting in a person you know well. The temperature of Garrett. That is the only way I can describe it. The specific temperature of him. The warmth that had been reliable, the attentiveness, the way he engaged with whatever was in front of him, cooled. Not toward Lily, toward me. He was still engaged, still present, still performing the surface of a marriage correctly, but the temperature had changed in the way that temperatures change, imperceptibly on any single day, noticeably over a month. I attributed it to work stress. Garrett had a significant project in the final phase of permitting, a mixed-use development in the Gulch, the kind of project that had political dimensions as well as architectural ones, and that had been consuming his attention for months. Plausible. I believed it. I also noticed something else that I filed away and did not act on immediately. Garrett and Lily talked easily. Too easily. Not in the way that a stepfather figure talks with the person he has known as family for 5 years, in the way that people talk when the talking is the point, when the conversation is not instrumental but an end in itself, when there is a specific pleasure in the contact that goes beyond the content. I noticed. I filed it away. I went back to work. I told myself I was imagining it. I did not stop noticing. The finances. I need to tell you about the finances because they are where the story actually lived underneath the surface. Garrett and I had joint accounts. We also each had individual accounts, mine predating the marriage by many years, the specific product of 12 years of a professional life as a financial planner before I became a consultant. I knew money. I had spent my career knowing money. And somewhere in August, 3 months after Lily came home, I looked at the account and something was wrong. Not dramatically, not a large withdrawal, a pattern. Transfers to an account I did not recognize. Small amounts, irregular intervals. The specific pattern that does not attract attention because no single instance is significant enough to flag, but accumulated over 3 months. The accumulation was not small. I looked at the account number. I searched it. I found the institution. I found, through the specific professional knowledge of someone who has spent 20 years in financial services, the name on the account. Lily Marsh. Her maiden name. Dana's name. The name she kept. I sat at my desk with the account statement on the screen, and the temperature in the room dropped to something I had not felt before.
I did not react. I want to explain this because I think people who hear this story expect me to say that I confronted them immediately, that I went to Lily's room or called Garrett at his office and said what I knew. I did not. Not because I was not angry. I was. The anger was the only word I have for what arrived in those first hours, is enormous. Not hot anger, cold anger. The specific low temperature of someone whose intelligence has just been used against her by the people she trusted most, and whose intelligence is now turning in the other direction. I had spent 20 years in financial planning. I knew how money moved. I knew what a pattern looked like. I knew what it meant when small transfers accumulated to a large sum. What I did not yet know was the full picture, and I needed the full picture before I did anything. I closed the statement. I opened a document. I started writing down what I knew and what I didn't and what I needed to find out. The list was the beginning of everything that came after. I called my friend Margaret first. Margaret Osei, 53, a Nashville estate attorney who had been my closest friend for 19 years. Not a divorce attorney. Margaret's specific expertise was in asset protection and estate planning, which was precisely what I needed. I called her on a Thursday morning. I asked if we could meet. I told her it was urgent and personal. She was at my house by noon. I showed her the account statement. I showed her the pattern. I told her the name on the receiving account. Margaret looked at the documents for a long time. She did not say anything immediately. She asked several questions. The joint accounts, how were they structured? My individual accounts, Garrett's access. The house, ownership structure. Any business interests, Garrett's architecture practice, my consulting work. I answered everything. When she finished, she put down her pen. "Harper," she said, "I need you to listen to me carefully." "I'm listening," I said. "This pattern, if it is what it appears to be, represents a specific kind of financial preparation, not impulsive, not emotional, methodical. Someone has been thinking about this for a while." "How long?" I said. "Based on the pattern, small amounts, irregular intervals, the specific account structure, at least 6 months before the first transfer. Planning, then execution. This didn't start in June." I sat with that. "Before Lily came home," I said. "Before she came home," Margaret confirmed. "The planning, if not the transfers." Before Lily came home, Garrett had been planning before she returned, or they had been planning from a distance before she was here to execute it. "Margaret," I said, "tell me what I need to do." What Margaret told me took the rest of Thursday afternoon. I will give you the essential shape. The joint accounts, I could freeze them. Not immediately, that would signal what I knew, but I could position to freeze them. The house, joint ownership, but purchased largely with my premarital assets. The specific structure of the ownership mattered. Margaret would review the deed. My individual accounts, these Garrett did not have access to. This was the foundation. Garrett's architecture practice, a professional entity. Assets within it were his, not marital property in the simple sense. But if he had been using marital funds to benefit the practice or to benefit Lily's account, that created a different picture. "I need you to do one more thing," Margaret said, "before we proceed. I need you to look carefully at everything accessible to you, every account, every document, every shared file,
and I need you to understand the full picture before we take any action that Garrett might be able to observe and respond to." "How long do I have?" I said. "As long as you can hold," she said. "Can you hold?" I thought about what I'd filed away over the summer, the temperature change, the conversations between them, the transfers. I thought about Dana, about the recital where Lily had forgotten the words, about what I had said. Forgetting the words is the most interesting thing that happened in that auditorium. I thought about raising someone from 19 to 27, the guest room painted dusty blue. I can hold.
The 3 weeks between Margaret's visit and what I am about to tell you were the most demanding of my professional life, and I have had demanding weeks. I managed them by treating them like a client project, not mine, a client's. The specific professional detachment of someone who has spent 20 years managing other people's financial futures and who now needed to apply that skill to her own. I documented everything, every account, every transfer, every pattern. I pulled every shared file Garrett and I had on the home server. This is where I found what I was not looking for specifically, but that I found anyway, because it was there, because they had been using the home server for communication that they believed was private, because Garrett did not know that I had the administrative access password, not because I had taken it, because I had set up the home server 7 years ago and had given Garrett a user account and had kept the administrative access for myself, because I was the one who understood the system, and there was no reason to give him access he would never need. He had never needed it until he needed it not to know about it. A shared folder between 2 accounts, Garrett's and one labeled simply L. I opened the folder on a Tuesday evening. Garrett was at his office. Lily was at a coffee shop with a friend from Vanderbilt. I opened it. It contained, I will not describe every document, but I will tell you the 3 that mattered most. The first, a spreadsheet, columns labeled with dates, account numbers, amounts, a running total, a specific figure at the bottom, the specific number that someone had decided was enough to leave with, $432,000, not a round number, the specific calculated number that comes from someone who has assessed what is available and decided what is sufficient. The second, an apartment lease, a city I recognized, not Nashville, Savannah, Georgia. Signed, Garrett's signature, Lily's signature. Beginning date, January 1st, 3 months away. The third, a note, not a formal document, a message printed from what appeared to be an email thread. Garrett's writing to Lily. H won't look. She never looks at the accounts. She trusts everyone. It's the one thing about her that actually helps us. She trusts everyone. I sat in front of the screen. She trusts everyone. He had built a 7-year marriage on the observation that I trusted too much. He had found the one person I trusted the most in the world, and he had used both of them. I closed the folder. I opened a new document. I called Margaret. "I have everything," I said. "When can you come in?" she said. "Tomorrow, 8 a.m. "I'll be here," she said. I hung up. I sat at the desk, the home server humming, the specific quiet of Nashville in October, the particular warmth of this city even in fall, the sound of distant music from somewhere down the street, because in Nashville there is always distant music from somewhere. I thought about Dana, about a Tuesday in March, about a hospital waiting room, about I refused to prepare myself. And I thought about what Dana would say if she could see what had happened to the daughter I had promised to take care of. She would say, "Make it right." Not hurt them, not punish them. Make it right. "I will, Dana," I said, to the empty room, to my sister who could not hear me. "I'm going to make it right." Margaret and I spent Thursday morning going through everything. She brought her colleague James Whitfield, a forensic accountant who worked with her firm on financial cases. James spent 4 hours with my documentation, the spreadsheet, the account statements, the transfer pattern, the total. When he was done, he looked at Margaret and then at me. $412,000, he said. That's what has moved from accounts that contained marital assets to the receiving account in Lily Marsh's name. Not 430, 412. 18,000 short of whatever their target was. The lease starts January 1st, I said. They were planning to get the rest before then. Based on the pattern, James said, there are likely 2 more transfers planned before December 31st. 3 weeks. Harper, Margaret said, I need to ask you something, and I need the answer before we do anything else. Ask, I said. What do you want from this? Not what you want to do to them, what you want at the end. Those are different things. I'd been thinking about this since Tuesday evening. I want what's mine, I said. I want the money that has moved without my consent returned. I want the financial position I had before this started to be restored. And the marriage, Margaret said. Over. And Lily? I sat with that question for a long time. Lily, I said slowly, is a separate question from a different category. I confronted Garrett on a Friday evening, not because the timing was perfect, because I was ready. Lily was out, a dinner with colleagues. Garrett was home. I came downstairs at 7. I put the printed spreadsheet on the coffee table between us. I put the lease agreement beside it. I put the printed email, Harper won't look, she never looks, face up. And I sat down. Garrett looked at the documents. He looked at me. Something passed through his face, not guilt exactly, the specific expression of someone who has been managing a long game and has just had the board overturned. Harper, I have $412,000 in documented, unauthorized transfers from accounts containing marital assets to an account in Lily Marsh's name. I have a lease in Savannah, Georgia, beginning January 1st, signed by you and by Lily. And I have your email telling me I don't look at the accounts and that my trust is what helps you. He was very still. I need you to tell me one thing, I said. Not for the legal process. Margaret has everything she needs. For me. Because I spent 7 years married to you, and I believed I knew you. He said nothing. How long have you and Lily been planning this? I said. A long pause. Since before she came home, he said. How long before? 14 months. 14 months. She had been in Boston. They had been planning some distance for 14 months. You built this marriage as the platform for this, I said. He didn't deny it. Why Lily? I said. Why her specifically, of all the people? I didn't choose Lily, he said. Lily chose me. She called me, in Boston. She called and she told me she was tired of watching you have everything, while she felt. He stopped. While she felt what? I said. Like a guest, he said. In your house, in your life. Like someone you took in, but never actually, like she had never actually, like I never loved her, I said. He was quiet. Is that what she told you? I said. He looked at the table. Yes, he said. I sat with that, with the specific weight of a sentence that is both absolutely wrong and that I understand completely. The specific grief of a child who has been loved by someone who is not her mother and who will always know the difference between the love that is given and the love that is owed. Lily had been loved. Lily had not been mine. She knew it. She had built something out of that knowledge. I did not say any of this to Garrett. It was not his to know. Get out of my house, tonight. Margaret will contact your attorney. He left. Lily came home at 10. I was in the living room. She saw the documents on the table. She saw my face. She stopped in the doorway. Harper? Sit down, Lily, I said.
She sat. I looked at her. 27 years old. Dana's eyes. Dana's way of tilting her head when she was about to say something difficult. Dana's daughter. I know everything, I said. The accounts, the transfers, the lease agreement in Savannah, Georgia, Garrett's email, all of it. She looked at the table. I'm not going to ask you to explain yourself, not tonight. I'm not ready to hear it, not tonight. She looked up. But I'm going to tell you one thing, I said, and I need you to hear it, not respond to it, just hear it. She was very still. I raised you, I said, not because I had to, because I loved you, because you were Dana's, because you were the part of Dana I could still hold on to. I painted your room dusty blue because you mentioned it once, and I was paying attention. I drove you to Vanderbilt on your first day, and I sat in the parking lot for 45 minutes after you went inside because I wasn't ready to leave. I wrote the check for Tufts without you asking because I wanted you to have it. Lily's eyes had filled. I know that's not the same as being your mother, I said. I know I'm not Dana. I never pretended to be. But I was there, every year since you were 19. And whatever you told Garrett, whatever you feel, I need you to know that I was paying attention. I was always paying attention. She was crying, not quietly. The specific crying of someone who has been holding something that is too big to hold and has had it named by someone who also loved it. I did not go to her. I could not. Not yet. You need to find somewhere to stay tonight, I said. Call me when you're ready to have the conversation. I'll be here. She left at 11. I sat in the living room, the documents on the table, Dana's eyes on her way out the door.
The legal process moved quickly. Margaret and James prepared for the speed. The documentation was complete. The financial picture was clear. The unauthorized transfers were unambiguous. The money was returned. Not all at once. Through the legal process, through the accounts being frozen, through Garrett's attorney negotiating a settlement that was significantly faster than it might have been, because the documentation was, as Margaret described it, unusually complete. She meant I had done my job. 20 years in financial planning. I had done my job. The divorce finalized in December, before the January 1st lease in Savannah ever began. Garrett moved to Savannah anyway, alone, as I know, because Lily did not go to Savannah in January. Lily called me in November. She asked if we could meet. I said yes. We met at a coffee shop in East Nashville, a Tuesday afternoon. She was already there when I arrived. She looked smaller than I expected. Not physically, the specific smaller of someone who has been carrying something and has set it down and doesn't know how to stand without the weight. She ordered coffee. I ordered tea. We sat, and she told me. Not everything. Some of what she told me belongs to her. The shape. She had felt for years the specific grief of being loved by someone who was not her mother, in a house that was not her house, with a life that was entirely not her own. She had felt this alongside being genuinely grateful. Both were true. Both had always been true. And Garrett had found the space between them. He had listened to her talk about the grief. He had made her feel understood in the specific way of someone who is skilled at making people feel understood. And then he had turned the grief into a plan. He used it, she said. He used everything I told him, the way I felt, the way I talked about you. He took what was real and he made it into... She stopped. I knew it was wrong. I knew when the transfer started. I knew, and I... She looked at the coffee cup. I wanted, she said, I wanted something to be mine. I know how that sounds. I know what it cost you. I know what I did. But I wanted something that wasn't because Harper paid for it, or Harper arranged it, or Harper was watching. I looked at her. Dana's eyes. I know, I said. She looked up.
I know that's what you wanted, I said. I knew it at 27. I didn't know how to give it to you. I didn't know how to love you and also let you have something that wasn't mine. She was very still. I'm not absolving you, I said. What you did was wrong. The money, the plan, all of it. That's real, and it had real consequences. But I understand the thing underneath it. Harper, I'm not done, I said. She waited. Your mother would be so angry with you right now, I said. She would be standing in this coffee shop, being absolutely furious. And then she would sit down, and she would listen to you explain it, and she would understand. That was who she was, both things at the same time. I'm trying. Lily looked at me. I'm trying, I said again. It has been 14 months. 14 months since October, and the spreadsheet and the email, and Garrett's face when the board turned over. I am still in Nashville, still in the house. The guest room is still dusty blue. Lily's in her own apartment now, a one-bedroom in the Germantown neighborhood, the specific Nashville area that is walkable and young and full of the specific energy of people who are building something they have chosen. She is working at a community organization downtown, social work, what she trained for, the most Dana thing possible. We have coffee on Sundays. Sometimes, not every Sunday, but sometimes. The rebuilding of something that has been broken does not happen on a schedule. It happens in the specific, slow accumulation of ordinary moments where two people who have hurt each other and loved each other choose to keep showing up. We are choosing, both of us, imperfectly, which is, I think, the only way it can be done. Margaret asked me once, over dinner, 6 months after the divorce, whether I was angry at Lily more than at Garrett. I thought about it. Yes, I said, and I'm trying to understand why that's not fair. Is it not fair? She said. She was 27 and he was 52, and he had been doing this professionally, the reading of people, the finding what they want and using it, for a long time. And she had been doing it for, 14 months? And she stopped before it finished. She didn't go to Savannah. She got caught, Margaret said. Not cruelly, just accurately. Yes, I said, she got caught. I don't know what she would have done if I hadn't found the server. I don't know if she would have stopped. I'm trying to give her the benefit of something I'm not certain she deserves. Why? Margaret said. Because she's Dana's, I said, and because Dana would want me to, and because... I stopped. Because what? Margaret said. Because the dusty blue room, I said. I painted it. I chose the color because she mentioned it once. That means something. Even now, even after all of this, that means something. Margaret looked at me. Yes, she said, it does. I think about Garrett less than I expected to. Not because what he did was small. What he did was a specific, calculated construction of a marriage as a vehicle for financial extraction. That is not small, but it is also contained. Garrett was a person who wanted something and built a plan to get it. The plan failed. He is in Savannah or somewhere else. He is no longer in my life in any form that requires attention. What requires attention is the complicated remainder. Lily, the guest room, the specific question of how to love someone who hurt you in a way that came from also being hurt. These things require attention. Garrett does not. Last month, Lily called me on a Tuesday. Not Sunday. Tuesday. Not for coffee, just to call. She said she had been thinking about something and she wanted to say it before she changed her mind. I said I was listening. She said,
I've been thinking about what you told me in the coffee shop, about the room, about the color, about knowing I mentioned it once." "Yes?" I said. She said, "I remember when you painted it. I came home from school and it was done. I didn't ask you to do it, you just did. And I walked in and I saw the color and I—" She stopped. "What did you do?" I said. She said, "I sat on the floor against the wall by myself for maybe 20 minutes and I cried. And I didn't tell you because I didn't know how to explain it." I sat with that. "Why did you cry?" I said. "Because it was the first time I thought—" She stopped again, started again. "The first time I thought that maybe I could be in the right place, even without Mom. Maybe I could be in the right place." I held the phone. "You were," I said. "You were always in the right place." A silence. "I know that now," she said. "I think I always knew it, I just didn't know what to do with it." I thought about Dana, about the Tuesday in March, about a waiting room and the refusal to prepare, about what you keep when you have lost almost everything, what Dana left me, what I had tried to give Lily, what was still imperfectly in the process of being given. "Come for dinner Sunday," I said. "Okay," she said. "I'll make what your mother used to make in October, the thing with the squash." A small sound, almost a laugh, almost. "She never made it right," Lily said. "No," I said. "Neither do I, but we can make it wrong together." This time it was a laugh, a real one, warm, Dana's laugh. "Sunday," she said. "Sunday," I said. I hung up. I sat in the house in Nashville, the October evening outside. The specific warmth of Nashville even as the season was turning, the way this city holds warmth longer than it should, as if it is reluctant to let it go. I thought about a wrong recipe for a squash dish. I thought about Dana making it every October and insisting it was right when everyone at the table knew it wasn't, and eating it anyway because she made it. I thought about Sunday, and I thought about the things that survive the worst things, not unchanged, but surviving. The dusty blue room, the wrong squash dish, Dana's laugh in Lily's throat, still here, still surviving, still worth the showing up. That's the whole story, or the part I'm ready to tell. I want to say something about trust, about the specific, complicated, and sometimes costly act of trusting people, and what you do when that trust is used against you not by a stranger, but by the people you would have given everything to anyway. Garrett said I trusted everyone. He meant it as a vulnerability. He was wrong about what it was. Trusting people is not naive. It is a decision, the same decision made again every day in the knowledge that it can be betrayed. I made that decision with Dana for 30 years. I made it with Lily from the day she was born. I made it with Garrett for 7 years. 2 of those 3 have been worth it, and even the third one, even Garrett, is not the reason to stop, because the alternative to trusting is a kind of smallness that I am not willing to accept. I am a financial planner. I know what it costs when things fail. I know how to document and freeze and recover. I know how to protect what's mine. And I also know, I have always known, that the spreadsheets and the documents and the legal processes are not what matters most. What matters most is the dusty blue room, the wrong squash dish, the Tuesday phone call that didn't have a reason except that Lily needed to say something before she changed her mind. That is what I'm keeping. The rest, the money, the divorce, the documents, all of that was just making it possible to get back to what matters. I am still in Nashville, still in my house. Sunday is coming. The squash dish will be wrong, and it will be exactly right. Thanks for listening.